We are back today regarding some more positive news surrounding the Columbus Blue Jackets. Defenseman Andrew Peeke has signed a 3-year extension today. The cap hit for each year is going to be $2.75 million. So in total, its total value is $8.25 million. $2.75 million as a cap hit for Andrew Peeke and what he's supposed to do, especially in the next 3 seasons, does seem to be pretty reasonable. But let's get into some of the more finer details. So this extension will not kick in until next season. So that means he is under contract with the Blue Jackets, including this season, for the next 4 of the seasons. I'm saying seasons way too much, but oh well. This contract buys out his remaining years of restricted free agency as well as 1 year of unrestricted free agency. I feel this is a pretty safe contract for the Columbus Blue Jackets and for Andrew Peeke as well. It makes sense for the role that they'll want him to be in when this extension kicks in. While Andrew Peeke might be playing next to Werenski again at the start of this year just by necessity and how play styles match, I do think the Blue Jackets see him as more of a second or maybe even third pair defenseman, but I think they keep him at least in the top 4, especially with how they stuck it out with him at the top pair next to Werenski for the majority of the season. Again, maybe that's more of necessity than want, but the Jackets are at least willing to put Andrew Peeke there, and that's where we might see him this year. And if that is the case, where Andrew Peeke is going to be the top pair defenseman next to Werenski, what he's making now is a bargain, and I guess what he'll be making for the 3 seasons after is a bargain for a top pair defenseman. But again, that's if they really want to. I think they're going to want one of their prospects like Juracek. Maybe Mateychuk is up there, although I doubt it. And maybe a guy like Adam Boqvist proves to be just such an offensive juggernaut that him and Werenski just make sense together, even if it is a little offense heavy. But that's getting into future projection and all that. But let's start for right now. And if Andrew Peeke doesn't play up to expectations, or if they think that, or if the Blue Jackets, get an offer for Andrew Peeke that's very interesting to them, they can definitely move this contract. It's under $3 million. It's a pretty cheap contract, especially if a team really wants to go get him. But I do feel like the organization sees Andrew Peeke as somebody that they want to keep around at least for the immediate future. Maybe they don't see them in like their, where are they going to be in 5 years? Maybe they don't see Andrew Peeke there, but at least for the next 4, they plan on at least an option to have him around. This deal looks very similar to Adam Boqvist's deal that they signed earlier this offseason. Perhaps this is kind of their philosophy on signing young defensemen who are relatively unproven in the NHL, but they do feel like they have more room to grow, more potential to give. Like a 3-year, somewhere in the $2.5 to $3 million range, seems to be where this organization values those young defenseman prospects. Well, they're not really prospects, but young developing players that they haven't broken out as true like stars in the NHL, but the Jackets do think that they're going to give them more than they've gotten so far, and they're signing them to deals that both make sense for their current production and will look like bargains if they produce any more. And I think that's also smart for these players, because if they do gain the reputation of being somebody who's underpaid for 2 or 3 years, I think that does help them get a bigger contract with either within the organization or with different teams, and maybe in free agency or if they want an offer sheet or something like that. But again, that's kind of future talk and getting into contract scenarios that won't happen for years now. Again, he's under contract for 4 years with this contract, and I think this is overall just a safe, nice get for the Blue Jackets. However, I do have one issue with this contract, and that is the length, and not necessarily that Andrew Peeke is going to be bad for that length of time. Just how is this going to impact the prospect pool coming up? Guys like David Juracek, maybe he's not just 1 year away like has been expected. Maybe he's 2 years away, but that still leaves 2 more years of Andrew Peeke being on the team when Juracek's there. And not just him, guys like Corson Quellmans, Sam Knazko, Denton Mateychuk, if he gets up there. This seems like something that could very possibly be impacted by their futures as well. But again, this contract is very movable. So if they have to move somebody around to get one of their younger defensemen in a role that they want, Andrew Peeke's contract is definitely available for that. Again, it seems like the organization does view him as somebody they want to stick around, but maybe if a couple prospects are NHL ready before the Jackets might have thought, a contract under $3 million for a defenseman that if he doesn't have the eyes of other front offices by now, I think another year being on the pair with Zach Werenski and looking better than I think a lot of people would expect him to, I think that would get him there would be a lot of talk around Andrew Peeke as a guy who might be a sneaky good get at a trade deadline or something, or in the offseason. I feel like Andrew Peeke gives front offices a lot of reasons to be excited about him. He's willing to get into the grittier side of the game, as we saw last year. He was willing to drop the gloves a little bit. He was willing to throw his body around. And I think the Jackets definitely need some of that, even with the additions of Eric Goodbranson and guys like Matthew Olivier. They do still need people besides those two who are willing to rough it up a little bit. And Andrew Peeke definitely embraced that a little bit last year. And this year, I think he's probably going to still do that and might get a little more backup with guys like Eric Goodbranson. So that would be nice for him. But again, overall, I do like this deal for the Blue Jackets and for Andrew Peeke. I mean, good for him for getting another contract, especially after the last few years. It's been a little bit rough for the development of Andrew Peeke. It's been kind of uncertain if people even saw a roadmap for him in this organization. Good for Andrew Peeke for seizing an opportunity and really taking it and riding it for as long as it's worth and getting another contract and some stability for it as well. So thank you all for watching. Please leave a like and a subscribe if you enjoy this video and you would like to see more like it. Let me know what you think about this Andrew Peeke contract and how the Blue Jackets handled it down in the comments below. Thank you all again for watching, and I will see you at the next one.